Are we walking into the very last days without even realizing it? In the past few years, the sky is no longer quiet. It tears through the darkness with swirling spirals of light, pours down over rolling waves of clouds like an upside-down ocean, shoots out bright streaks that rip across the sky and then suddenly change direction. Clouds swell up as if they're breathing. Spiraling objects crawl down from high above. A sharp line splits the sky into bright and dark halves. Pillars of fire burst up in the freezing cold. Flocks of birds form perfect, almost eerie shapes. Glowing orbs quietly patrol. Everything is coming fast, piling on top of each other, like an invisible hand is pressing hard on the gas pedal of time. Do you ever wonder, is this just coincidence or a warning? If these signs were foretold thousands of years ago, if the sky is really speaking, then the only question left is, how much time do we have? End quote. Come along with me now as we dig deeper to find the truth behind those curtains. And before we start, please leave a prayer in the comments below as a way to show your faith in the Lord. Amen. Now, so you don't have to wait, let's jump right in with 1. A mysterious spiral of light tears open the sky over Quetta and Pakistan. God is calling humanity's name. A huge spiral of light suddenly ripped through the night sky in Quetta, and in that moment, we knew some nights are no longer ordinary. Hundreds of people looked up at the same time, phones buzzing in their hands as a bright silver-white beam exploded into the pitch-black darkness, spinning perfectly like it was drawn by an invisible, all-powerful hand. The video spread like wildfire on social media right away. Up on the Balochistan plateau, used to strong winds and mountain clouds, that light didn't just flash and disappear like a shooting star. It curled into a giant spiral, miles wide, slowly turning quietly like a glowing snake sliding through the air. Everything around went dead silent, with only that steady, majestic motion that took your breath away. Its shadow stretched long across the Rocky Mountains, turning the ground into a haunting, dreamlike picture. Matthew 24-29 once warned, right after those days of trouble, the sun will go dark, the moon won't give light, stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. As that spiral hung there in the air, those Bible words weren't just on the page anymore. They rang out like an alarm bell in the night. Tiny rays broke off from the main light, flashing like electric sparks before joining back into the swirl, making it feel strangely alive. People ran out into the streets, some totally freaked out, others strangely calm, just quietly praying, like they knew whatever was spinning up there came from somewhere beyond. The hardest thing to explain wasn't how fiercely it burned, but the complete silence while it turned, like a giant finger drawing a sign across the sky. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and clouds of smoke." And Joel 2:30 goes on, "I will display wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke." Could this quiet spiral pillar of light in the dark night be that very image playing out right now for our generation? A lot of folks say it was just rocket exhaust freezing high up, spun into a spiral by centrifugal force. But others push back with questions like, why no official announcement at all? And how was the shape so perfect? Not off by an inch, holding steady for minutes without breaking apart. The more you try to explain it, the more mysterious it gets. This wasn't just some technical glitch in the sky. It's an opening sign, a message written in light. If that spiral was the first bell ringing in the dark, the real question left is, now that the sky has started moving like this, what else is going to get written up there in the days ahead? 2. Rolling cloud sea over eastern Ontario, Canada, shaken by the fury of the sky. A man in southern Ontario looked up because the sky suddenly got dark in the middle of the afternoon, and what he saw left him frozen in place. The whole sky above stretching all the way to Quebec, wasn't clouds anymore. It looked like a rough ocean turned upside down and hanging there. No clear horizon, no familiar shapes, just thick rolling masses like waves rising right over your head. The Great Lakes region often sees cold air from the Arctic clashing with warm air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, creating complicated storm systems. But this time, instead of a regular thunderstorm, the sky got pressed into clear layers of waves, curving, overlapping, like the whole ocean got frozen solid thousands of feet up. Sunlight slipped through the gaps in sharp, cold streaks, making the whole scene look like the bottom of the sea glowing from above. The thick cloud masses went from steel gray to deep black, with huge swells spreading out for miles, constantly pushing against each other like force. 1-2 waves held frozen just before they crashed down. Ground videos show the surface moving slow but steady, like something alive breathing. Imagine standing under that sea. Would you really believe it's just normal weather? Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." When the sea isn't below our feet anymore, but shows up overhead, those words stop being just a picture. It feels like a record coming true through clouds and wind. People quickly split into two groups. Weather experts call it asperitas clouds, a rare type officially recognized in 2017, formed by strong wind shear between atmospheric layers. But a lot of regular folks admit they felt uneasy and worried, in a way that's hard to explain, like they were seeing something beyond the usual natural cycle. Meanwhile, many believers stayed remarkably calm. They didn't panic or yell. They prayed and reminded each other that everything was foretold. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places." Nature shaking isn't separate from the bigger picture of a world heading into a time of judgment. Revelation 8-5 records, "The angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it on the earth. And there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake." When the sky rolls like an angry ocean, it's not just weather, it's creation itself, testifying, showing that earth and heaven are responding exactly as prophesied long ago. If the sea can hang suspended over people's heads, how close is the line between order and judgment? When that cloud sea finally breaks up, the question doesn't disappear with it. Was this just the first warning before the real storm that's waiting ahead? 3. Strange lights cutting across the sky? Meteor shower? Or something else? The man just wanted to film a regular meteor shower, but his camera suddenly caught hundreds of weird bright streaks ripping through the night sky, perfectly straight at first, then suddenly bending like they had a mind of their own. Not 1 or 2 or 10, but thick, like a whole organized grid of light moving above him. What would you think if those stars didn't keep falling, but stopped in midair and changed direction on purpose? Normal meteor showers follow clear paths. Space rocks slam into the atmosphere at tens of thousands of miles per hour, burn up, and leave short, bright trails. But this time, that rule was completely broken. Some streaks dove down, then slowed, turned sideways, even looped back into perfect arcs like drawn with a compass. No long, fiery tails, no fading in a couple seconds. They stayed steady and bright, like controlled strips of moving lights. His hands were shaking as he zoomed in, and on the screen you could see the bright dots, keeping even spacing. No crashing, no mess. It didn't feel like watching mindless space rocks anymore. It felt like a silent formation of lights on patrol. Matthew 24:29 says, "The stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken." When those points of light stopped following free-fall paths, those words hit different. like a reminder that the sky isn't just empty space. Some people watching said it could be commercial satellites or space junk reflecting sunlight, especially those strings of low-orbit satellites. Science says the angle, the height, and how our eyes see things can make motion look strange. Those explanations make sense, and they help us understand how the physical universe works. But the Bible opens another layer. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful sights and great signs from heaven." Science answers, what's happening? Faith asks, what is it warning about? When strange sky events pile up and look unusual, they're not just astronomy, they're signs of a bigger shift coming. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in heaven above." End quote. Those straight lines, strange arcs, and what looked like purposeful movement might still fit the laws of physics, but they could also be a message about the time we're living in. Faith doesn't deny satellites or meteors. Faith looks through them to see the bigger picture of what's ahead. If those streaks were just things passing in orbit, they'd soon be gone from sight. But if they're great signs from heaven, they're reminding us time isn't just drifting along forever. When the sky starts moving in ways that make people stop and wonder, maybe that's when faith wakes up. And if those lights aren't just meteors, what are they getting ready for? 4. A strange black cloud hovering over a Canadian lake? A living thing from the sky? A black cloud just hangs there right above the lake surface. It doesn't break up. It doesn't drift with the wind at all. It stays put like a living mass, separate from the blue sky far off, swelling up and then shrinking back in this eerie quiet. What do you think it really is? A couple on vacation by a big lake in Canada was only a few dozen yards from that dark shape. The water below it was calm as a mirror. The cloud had an odd, uneven shape, thick like smoke pouring from some invisible chimney, but it stayed just a few dozen feet above the lake. It didn't stretch out into a long strip. It wasn't connected to the clouds higher up. It just hung there all by itself, like something suspended in midair. From what they saw, the edges of the cloud kept pushing out and then pulling back in, almost like something inside was pressing pressure from the center outward. The deep black color soaked up nearly all the light, throwing the area right underneath into sudden shadow, even though sunshine was still everywhere else. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke." A thick, pitch-black cloud hanging over the water like a smoke column isn't just some weird thing to look at. It hints that the sky might start showing signs beyond what we're used to. Weather experts say it could be an isolated cloud formed from the cold lake water meeting warmer air above, or something like Mamata's clouds where pockets of cold air sink down. Science explains the air movement, density, and pressure. But those physical answers don't take away the uneasy feeling when the cloud seems to respond to its surroundings in its own rhythm. Revelation 9:2 says, "He opened the bottomless pit, and smoke rose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace, so that the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke from the pit." When the light around the lake got swallowed up for a few minutes by that hovering black mass, those words feel like a reminder that darkness might mean more than just no light. It could point to something deeper. Nature isn't mindless. It reacts, it shakes, it shows itself in ways that sometimes make us stop and think. Maybe that cloud was just the result of temperature differences and unstable air currents. But it could also be a nudge that creation itself is groaning, waiting for the day of redemption. As more signs appear in the sky, are we really ready for what they might mean? If that black cloud was just a rare event, it'll fade into the past like so many others. But if it's one small sign in a chain of things foretold long ago, then the question isn't, what is it anymore? It's, what do we do next? And if one day The darkness doesn't just hover over a lake, but spreads across the whole sky. How will humanity face it? 5. Thousands of birds twist and turn into strange shapes in the Italian sky, an invisible hand guiding the way. Thousands of birds suddenly covered the sky over a market in Italy. They swirled and twisted into such exact shapes that folks standing below couldn't tell anymore what was pure instinct and what was some unseen command. No siren, no signal, but in just a few seconds, the whole sky became a moving stage, perfectly in sync, and every single person there went quiet, just watching. The murmuration of European starlings is something researchers already know about, but this time, the size was way bigger than anything ever recorded. From a couple hundred feet above those old rooftops, the flock made a perfect circle, then squeezed it into an isosceles triangle, then stretched it out into a long sine wave hundreds of yards across. Every change of shape took only a few seconds. Not one bird got out of step, like the whole flock was one single living thing with the same nervous system. Shoppers lifted their heads, baskets dropped onto the stone pavement, whispers spread all across the square. One thing gave a lot of people chills. Right in the middle of all those shapes, the birds suddenly formed a clear heart for just a moment, then broke apart instantly into an arrow pointing straight toward the horizon. There wasn't any sound or strong wind shift to explain how they all switched together so perfectly. Matthew 24-28 says, "Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather." In the Bible, birds coming together isn't only animal behavior, it's also a sign of a time that's already set. When thousands of little creatures turn as one, like they've been called, you can't help thinking about a much bigger gathering still to come. Scientists say each bird just watches the 6 or 7 closest ones next to it. That creates these complex patterns through aerodynamics and staying safe from predators. Computer models show only a few simple rules can make those amazing shapes. But what rule made the heart show up exactly when the crowd below was looking up, then turn right into a clear arrow like a signal? Jeremiah 8-7 says, "Even the stork in the sky knows its seasons. The turtle dove, the swift, and the thrush observe the time of their coming, but my people do not know the law of the Lord." If birds know precisely when to gather and change course, maybe they're tuned to a timing rhythm most people don't notice. The Bible doesn't deny natural instinct. It shows creation runs on a bigger plan than human history. The flock didn't fly off right away. It kept changing shapes for more than 10 minutes, like it was repeating a message with its movements. Maybe the invisible hand of the Creator is gently reminding us that time doesn't just drift along, and everything has its own season. When the sky dances with thousands of tiny wings, perhaps history itself is getting ready for a much bigger turn. The birds finished their dance and faded into the sunset, but the feeling still lingers on those rooftops and in the hearts of everyone who saw it. If that wasn't just instinct, if it was a sign, then the next dance won't be up in the Italian sky anymore. It'll be right in the flow of all humanity. 6. Those swollen clouds look like they're breathing, the mystery from Europe that has the whole world amazed. The sky over Europe suddenly changed, looking like a giant chest taking breaths. Round, puffy pouches of cloud hung down from the main cloud layer, making drivers pull over right there in the middle of green fields. In just a few minutes, the peaceful scene turned into something out of a dream, where the sky wasn't flat and still anymore, but moving in and out with a clear rhythm. The cloud pockets dropped down hundreds of feet, their surfaces smooth and dark like stretched rubber, shaking gently with strong winds up high. Each pouch would swell out, then shrink back over cycles that lasted several minutes, giving the feeling that something alive was working overhead. Standing under it, you could hear the wind whistling through the gaps and really feel the air pressure changing around you. This is known as mammatus clouds. They usually show up under big thunderstorm bases when cold air sinks down. But this time, they spread out over miles and lasted more than 30 minutes, with dozens of pouches pulsing together like a heartbeat. On social media, the pictures spread like wildfire. Some folks said they saw monster shapes hiding in there. Others called it the sky's breathing. Joel 2:33-1 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun will turn dark, and the moon will turn to blood." Those dark cloud pouches blocked the light, turning the whole countryside a heavy gray, making lots of people think of those ancient signs from thousands of years ago. People who saw it reacted in different ways. Some got worried and hurried back to their cars, afraid a big storm was coming. They looked up like they were seeing the start of something awful. Others just stood there quietly, filming and praying, believing every change is under the Creator's control. The different reactions didn't change what was up there, but they showed how people face something they don't fully understand. Revelation 6:12 says, "I watched as the Lamb opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red." Those descriptions of a darkened, shaking sky aren't meant to scare us, but to warn that nature can carry a message. Weather experts explain that cold air sinking creates these bulging pouches. It's just normal physics. That's true for how they form. Still, the way they appeared all at once, lasted so long, and shook people up so much, made many feel this was more than just regular weather. Even with the science explanation, those swollen cloud pouches made the world stop and look. If the wonders in the sky are signs of bigger changes coming, then every time the sky breathes hard like that, it's a reminder. As the pouches slowly flattened and the light came back, the question that stayed wasn't how they formed, but whether we're ready for whatever bigger movements might be ahead. 7. Object like a giant twisted rope coming down from the American sky. A silent invader or a wake-up call? A long, thin object, twisted like a huge rope, quietly came drifting down from high clouds on a calm afternoon in the US. We only noticed it when it was right there in front of us. Everything was so quiet and strange, with a steady, patient movement that felt like it had a purpose of its own. A woman sitting in her backyard looked up and saw this thing stretching hundreds of feet, twisting evenly from top to bottom, like something invisible was turning it. The top part was thinner, the main body thicker and darker against the sky, gently curving in a perfect spiral but not pushed off course by the wind. No smoke coming out, no pieces falling, just a dark rope connecting the high clouds to lower sky, holding its shape for several minutes. When the camera zoomed in, the motion looked like a living thing, sliding down, smooth, no jerks, no breaks. The feeling that a boundary between sky and ground was being pierced made a lot of people shiver. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above." Signs appearing in the middle of the sky don't always come with loud noises. Sometimes they're quiet, lasting long enough to make people really look. A spiraling object coming down like a living rope is something that's hard to just turn away from. On social media, the debate exploded. Some said it was airplane contrails twisted by high-level wind shear, or maybe a weather balloon leaking gas and falling in a spiral path. Those ideas are based on real aerodynamics and could happen under the right conditions. But the question people kept asking most was, why did it hold that even twist and slide down so slowly instead of breaking apart? Revelation 9:1-2 says, "The fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. It opened the abyss, and smoke rose from it." The picture in the Bible of something opening from above down to the earth isn't just a figure of speech. It's a warning that spiritual things can't stay hidden forever. When the sky shows structures linking two realms, a lot of folks can't help thinking about the invisible breaking into the visible world. The event might be explained by atmospheric science, but the feeling it left behind goes beyond a natural experiment. Some people got scared and hurried inside, locking doors like they were avoiding something about to touch down. Others just stood there, quietly praying, believing everything happens with God's permission. That difference shows how we each face things we can't control. Whether it was swirling smoke or a balloon, the image of that rope coming down from the sky is still a strong wake-up call that the heavens aren't always still. If signs from above are showing up more often, we need to stay alert to what they really mean. And if that rope really is a crack between two worlds, the last question is, what's waiting on the other end? 8. The sky split in two, one side bright, one side dark, a line of light cutting right across the whole sky. The sky split in two. That moment made a lot of folks just stop in their tracks. Like the world had slipped off its usual track and we suddenly realized this wasn't just any normal afternoon anymore. Right there in the park, with sunshine still falling on the paths, a sharp, cold line sliced straight across the sky, dividing everything into two opposite halves. One side glowing golden like fire, the other dark and heavy like night hadn't even gotten its name yet. The guy holding his phone had a slight shake in his hand, and when you watch that video again, it's hard to deny the feeling that something big is being shown to us. That dividing line was so clear, it looked like you could measure it with a ruler. It stretched for miles through the clouds, no bleeding, no blurring, no soft fade like you see in regular weather changes. It felt more like a clean cut than some random thing happening by chance, almost as if the sky had turned into a curtain that somebody tore open to reveal two parallel realities side by side. Some folks joked online, calling it a glitch in the matrix. But underneath the laughs, there was this long pause of silence, the kind your soul feels before your mind gets a chance to speak up. Matthew 24-29 says, "The sun will be darkened, the moon won't give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." Those words aren't just talking about changes in the sky. They point to a shaking of the order we always thought was rock solid. When light and darkness stand right next to each other without mixing, maybe it's a reminder that the time of separation is closer than we think. Weather experts say this could be a split sky thing, where a thick cloud bank blocks the sun and makes a sharp edge of contrast. That explanation sounds reasonable, but it still leaves you wondering why the cut is so razor sharp and why the difference feels like two pictures slapped together in a hurry. Science can explain the how, but it doesn't quite kill that gut feeling. This might be a sign going beyond plain old physics. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be anxious and confused." Signs aren't just for looking at, they're for responding to. When the sky itself becomes the message, what people do next is what really decides what it all means. 2. That anxiety and confusion isn't just plain fear, it's realizing a line has been drawn. If this was the final judgment announced not with thunder, but with a quiet line of light, then the split between light and dark isn't a metaphor anymore. God doesn't just talk about separation in the Bible, He shows us a picture of it right overhead. And once the sky has been torn in two in front of everybody, what's left isn't arguing, it's choosing. Because once that line shows up clear in the sky, it's also being redrawn inside every person's heart. When light and dark stand side by side without blending, the story isn't about the phenomenon anymore. It's about which side we choose to stand on. And if the dividing has already started up high, then where do you think the next step happens? 9. Giant candle flame floating over Alaska ice. A doorway to another dimension. Giant candle flame floating over Alaska ice, a sight that stops a lot of folks in their tracks because of its quiet, holy feeling that's hard to put into words. And maybe when you see that moment, the first thing you feel isn't fear, it's respect. Out in the wide, white wilderness of Alaska, where the temperature can drop way below zero, a tall column of light shoots straight up into the sky like a giant candle lit in the middle of an icy desert. It doesn't blaze wildly, It just sways gently. Thousands of tiny ice crystals catch the sunlight and make a shimmering, living flame that almost doesn't seem real. A group of tourists stood quietly in that huge open space, miles around them empty. Right in front of them was this towering pillar of light, reaching up toward the clouds, moving softly with each cold gust of wind. The light didn't spread out. It held together in a clear shape, wide at the bottom, narrowing toward the top, exactly like a candle burning quietly in the sky. The whole scene made everything around it feel different, like the sky had turned into the dome of some enormous cathedral, and that pillar of light was the lamp guiding anyone lost in the last great wilderness of our time. Exodus 13:21 says, "The Lord went ahead of his people in a pillar of cloud by day to guide them, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light," so they could travel day and night. The pillar of fire isn't new to the Bible. It's a sign of God's presence and guidance. When a bright column lights up in the middle of Alaska's snow and ice, that old spiritual memory wakes up again. It connects the ancient Sinai desert with people today who are trying to find their way through all the chaos. Scientists call this a light pillar. It happens when light reflects off ice crystals hanging in very cold air. That explanation tells the physical side of it, but it doesn't take away the powerful symbol when the pillar takes the exact shape of a candle, swaying like it has a life of its own. In a world that's changing so fast, this picture goes beyond weather science and touches something deeper, where symbols and faith come together. Revelation 10:1 says, "I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud, with a rainbow over his head, his face like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire." Those words aren't just about power. They point to the pillar of fire as a sign of heaven stepping in. When you see that bright column floating over the white ice, a lot of people can't help thinking the old images are being shown again in a way our generation can actually see with their own eyes. As messengers, we take note of this, both with respect for science and with an open heart to the spiritual side. A column of light can be explained by ice crystals, but it can also be a quiet reminder that the one who guides has never left human history. If the pillar of fire once led through the desert, then maybe this giant candle over Alaska today is shining light on something in our journey right now. That flame is still floating there, burning without using up fuel, shining in the cold and silence. It might just be sunlight reflecting off ice, or it might be a sign that guidance is still coming through familiar symbols. And when a pillar of light appears in the wildest, emptiest place, the real question left isn't how it formed, it's where it's leading us. 10 bright orbs moving in a line across the Brisbane sky, a patrol team from outer space. Bright orbs lined up in the Brisbane sky. That sight left a lot of people stunned and speechless. And when you see that video spreading all over social media, don't you feel something almost sacred about it? In the quiet night over Brisbane, Australia, dozens of bright points suddenly showed up, moving in a perfect straight line like they were programmed, gliding across the sky for miles. Their lights blinked in rhythm, bright then soft, like eyes scanning the ground below. Folks stood on their porches, in parks, or in parking lots, everyone looking up, phones held high to catch every moment. Those orbs didn't scatter, didn't bump into each other, didn't suddenly change direction. They kept almost perfect spacing and moved at a steady speed, as if patrolling an invisible line. The sky we know so well suddenly became a huge screen showing a message in light, and the feeling of being watched got stronger than ever. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be fearful events and great signs from heaven." This Bible verse doesn't describe the exact shape or how it happens, but it stresses how scary and massive these signs will be. When dozens of bright orbs crossed the night sky together, that overwhelming feeling seemed to match exactly what great signs means, like a warning that came not with sound, but with light. A lot of people think it was Starlink satellites, or rocket debris coming back into the atmosphere, something that's been seen before. That explanation makes sense technically, but what bothers many is the almost perfect timing and the orderly changing lights, giving the impression of an intentional formation. When it goes beyond the usual satellite passes we're used to, it opens the door to deeper questions about what the timing really means. Matthew 24-30 says, "Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then all the peoples of the earth will mourn." End quote. Here, the Bible isn't talking about one private event, but a public sign that lots of people see at the same time. The bright orbs moving in line over Brisbane may not be the sign of the Son of Man yet, but they remind us of a pattern. The sky becomes the place where coming things are announced, and all humanity can do is look up and watch. And we're not saying every light in the sky is supernatural, but we also can't just ignore it when these kinds of things keep happening more and more often. If the Bible calls them great signs from heaven, then the repeating strange sights might be a quiet countdown to a time that was foretold long ago. Preparation doesn't start when the final event hits. It starts when the first signs are noticed. Those bright orbs passed by and faded into the dark, but the memory of them still lingers in the minds of those who saw them. If it's just technology, it still reminds us the sky can change anytime. If it's a sign, then the foretold moment may be getting closer day by day. And when another night lights up with similar formations, will we just keep watching, or will we be ready for what was warned about so long ago? Here are 10 phenomena that have passed right before our eyes, like 10 frames from one bigger picture. Spirals of light twisting through the clouds. Clouds looking like an upside-down ocean. Rope-like objects crawling down from the sky. Bright streaks tearing across space. Pillars of fire hanging in the freezing Alaska air. And rows of glowing orbs quietly moving through the night. Each one alone can be explained by science, weather, or technology. But when you put them side by side, they form a rapid series of signs that many people simply can't ignore anymore. The sky no longer feels like just a quiet backdrop to our daily lives. It has become a place where deep spiritual questions are being written in light and motion. The Bible has long described the last days, when nature and the sky would no longer stay in their familiar state. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars. On the earth, nations will be anxious and confused." When we compare those words with what humanity is seeing right now, we recognize a connection between the ancient and the present, between prophecy and what we're experiencing today. These signs aren't meant to feed our curiosity. They're meant to wake up hearts that have fallen asleep in the rush of everyday life. Matthew 24:42 reminds us, "So stay awake, because you don't know what day your Lord will come." Being awake doesn't mean panicking. It means living with the awareness that this life has an eternal side to it. When the sky shakes, when light and darkness stand out more clearly than ever, that's the moment we're each invited to look at our own faith again, return to prayer, and place full trust in the Lord, the one who holds history from beginning to end. If these phenomena are a knock at the door, how we respond will decide which door opens inside our hearts. Take time to pray, seek peace in God's Word, and prepare your soul for things that may be closer than we think. If something stirs in your heart, feel free to leave a prayer or your own thought in the comments below so we can encourage one another in faith and hope. And if these messages touch you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any reminders on the road ahead. Thank you for staying with me to this moment. Thank you for listening with an open heart. May the Lord bless you, keep you and your family in peace, and protect you through all the changes of these times. Amen.
The sun, that can't be the sun because the sunset is over there.
The unusual
Have you ever looked up at the sky and felt a cold shiver of fear run down your spine, like God was quietly whispering that mankind's time is running out? When wars break out, natural disasters roar, and diseases sweep through country after country, the sky doesn't stay silent anymore. It starts shaking, flashing, cracking open, like a giant warning sign hanging right above our heads. From America to India, strange things keep showing up one after another. A second sun burning bright red on the horizon, black rings just hanging motionless in the air, dark gates swinging wide open between the clouds, swirling lights like some secret ritual, loud trumpet sounds ripping through the sky, huge shadowy figures appearing in the storm. 3 suns lined up in a cold row. It all comes fast, piling on top of each other, as if the sky is in a hurry to send a message that humanity isn't ready to face yet. Do you feel like the future is getting squeezed tighter every day? Leave a prayer in the comments below, the way you hold on to your faith, before we go deeper into each sign and find out what's really waiting ahead, okay? Amen. Now, come with me as we dig in and get started with 1. The mystery about 2 suns appearing at the same time in Florida. A second bright red sun suddenly hung in the Florida sky, turning a peaceful sunset into something breathtaking and a little scary. In Jacksonville and Fort Walton Beach, folks rushed outside, panicked, holding up their phones to record it. Even just watching on a screen, you could feel how unreal and mysterious it looked. No one had time to figure out what was happening as that glowing ring flared up and swelled right along the horizon. That huge red thing was said to be almost a mile wide, hanging low and burning fiercely next to the real sun as it set, painting the whole sky a thick blood red. Thick smoke from wildfires up in Canada had drifted down, creating a heavy haze that made everything feel even more dreamlike, like a curtain being pulled back to reveal something hidden for a long time. A lot of people got scared when they realized this wasn't our usual sun, but a fiery red eye watching over humanity. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Hearing those words while staring at 2 glowing orbs side by side sent chills down the spine. Then Matthew 24:29 warns, "Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." Could this be the first bell ringing from that red sky? Still, some folks say it was just the wildfire smoke changing the sun's color, or maybe lens flare from phone cameras. But why did that glow look so separate, so huge, and hang there quietly for so long on the horizon? Science talks about refraction and atmospheric dust, but it doesn't quite chase away the feeling that something unusual just showed itself. When 2 lights sit together in the same frame, all the calm explanations start to feel pretty thin. I'm sharing this as something that really happened, but I can't ignore the spiritual weight it carries. If this is just the opening act, if those 2 suns are only the first sign, then what happens when the line between the familiar light and this strange one blurs completely? And if one day they collide in some fateful moment, will the sky ever stay quiet like it used to? 2. Mysterious shapes appear with each flash and flicker of lightning in the clouds. Boom! Lightning bolts rip across the Chicago sky, then roll down toward Texas like blinding white slashes. In those shaking moments, strange, eerie forms suddenly show up among the thick black clouds. A familiar stormy night turns into a warning, making folks on the ground tremble as they look up. If you saw it yourself, you'd probably get chills with every thunderclap crashing down because of its sheer power. Between the non-stop flashes, dark structures pop out for a split second, then vanish when the light dies. They're hundreds of feet long, woven together like giant wheels, nested inside each other. They don't drift like regular clouds or break apart like smoke. They appear in an orderly way, forming a huge hanging network in the sky, like a massive machine slowly waking up. Every time lightning flares, those circles stand out clearer, then get swallowed back into the dark, leaving the sky heavy with mystery. Ezekiel 1:16 says, "The appearance of the wheels and their workmanship was like the gleam of beryl, and the four of them had the same likeness." Their appearance and workmanship being something like a wheel within a wheel. When people compare those old words to what's caught on spreading videos, a lot of them get goosebumps over the strange similarity between an ancient vision and these modern storm images. On social media, folks are split right down the middle. One side says, "It's just pareidolia, our brains making shapes out of mammatus clouds lit up by lightning, and science can explain it all with unstable atmospheric patterns." The other side, the faithful ones, believe it can't be pure coincidence that these wheels within wheels show up right when the sky is shaking so hard. It feels like something's being allowed to peek through. Some even say it looks exactly like descriptions of the Ophanim angels. Do you agree with that view? Revelation 6:12 says, "When the Lamb opened the sixth seal, I saw a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became like blood." That talk of earth and sky shaking, darkness covering everything, makes many believe these storm shapes aren't just illusions. They're part of a series of signs slowly being revealed. In all the arguing and doubting, the question isn't just clouds or no clouds anymore. It's why these structures match so closely with descriptions written thousands of years ago. If it's only weather, that coincidence is really hard to explain. If not, then maybe we just caught a brief glimpse of guardian angels that usually stay hidden behind thick clouds. I'm not just reporting news anymore. When those wheels appeared in the thunder and lightning, it felt like a warning went out. If lightning keeps tearing the sky in coming storms, will the Ophanim show themselves more fully? And if they do, what might come after such a powerful appearance? 3. Mysterious bright streaks. The sky suddenly turned into a strange map when thin lines of light flashed and curved through the clouds, like an invisible hand was halfway through, drawing an old message. No big boom, no wild storm, just a weird moment that lasted a few seconds and made folks shiver, wondering, did we just miss a sign? Those patterns vanished so fast that your memory barely had time to catch them. In California and Florida, where people are used to sky shows and lights up high, lots of witnesses said they saw strange glows behind the high clouds. Then, parallel lines stretched out for miles, like a web. They weren't straight like regular contrails. They curved in patterns, crossed neatly, then disappeared, leaving the sky empty, as if nothing had happened. That surprise left many people standing still for minutes, staring at the spot that had just changed. Some folks give a science explanation, maybe gravity waves or noctilucent clouds catching light way up high, a rare thing, but not supernatural. That sounds reasonable, but why do those lines look so perfect, so balanced and repeating, almost like a design? What do you think when something that seems random starts looking intentional? That question just hangs there quietly, up in the sky and in people's hearts. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." When folks read that again, many believers feel those curving cloud lines might be part of those wonders, not to scare us, but to wake us up. If the sky really is a place where power shows itself, then even a small change could mean something bigger than just science. The videos show a flash of light right before the lines appear, like an invisible door cracked open. They stretch miles across a pale gray sky, then fade in just a few breaths, making people feel like they saw something outside the usual order. The mystery is that it's quiet, no noise, no drama, and that's exactly why it makes you think harder. Matthew 24:30 says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." That Bible verse isn't just about something far off. It hints the sky will show signs you can't mistake. Could those strange patterns be a gentle reminder to look up and search for deeper meaning? Even as science keeps looking for answers, the way Bible descriptions match what people saw makes many believe this isn't just weather. Those lines feel like the first brushstrokes in a bigger picture, a light mark, but strong enough to stir up faith that's grown cold. When the light flashes and fades, what's left isn't just empty sky, it's a quiet question burning inside whoever watched. If that's really God's mark, drawing a soft warning before bigger changes come, where do we stand in that picture? Are those patterns just the opening notes for a wider door that might open in the sky? And if one day those lines don't fade but form a clear image, will humanity be ready for what's waiting ahead? 4. 2 mysterious dark objects hanging in the sky. 2 huge black shapes suddenly appeared, just hanging there in the thick clouds, completely still like gates that had opened from some other world. The whole sky went dark for a few breathless minutes. No thunder, no loud boom, just these threatening round black voids showing up. If you looked up and saw a hole like that staring down at you, what would you think it was? In places like Basel and Milwaukee, where thick clouds often cover the sky, people who saw them said those shapes didn't drift like smoke or fade like mist. They stayed solid and steady in a way that gave you chills. They were round or oval, maybe about 500 feet across, with really sharp edges, and the center so dark it seemed to swallow all the light around it. The scene wasn't noisy, but that very quietness made it feel more eerie and scary than any storm. Some folks say these were fall streak holes, those cloud holes that form when ice crystals drop and clear out the surrounding cloud layer. Scientists explain that planes flying through super cold cloud layers can cause this, leaving a clear, round gap in the sky. They point out it's a known physical process that's been studied, not some supernatural gate, and we don't deny that. Science always tries to explain things that seem strange. But the question still hangs there, just like those dark shapes. And why were they so black this time, almost soaking up the light? And why did they stay still for so long while the clouds around them were moving? Have you ever wondered, if everything can be explained, then where does that creepy feeling come from? It's right in that mix of knowing and uneasiness that people start turning to old writings. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." When strange shapes like this hang in the sky, many believers see it as more than just weather. They see it as a quiet warning that humanity is entering a time to wake up, not to spread panic, but to remind us that darkness isn't only up in the clouds. Isaiah 13:10 says, "The stars of heaven and their constellations will not show their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not give its light." Those sky holes with black patches remind people of a time when light gets covered up, like some dark period is drawing near. If those sky gates are just clouds, they still remind us nature can change in an instant. But if they're a sign, it's a much stronger warning. Science keeps watching and explaining, but the event still leaves a lasting, uneasy feeling for those who saw it. Those 2 hanging shapes are like doors opening in the sky, real yet mysterious, something you can measure yet beyond any measurement. If they're gates to God's judgment, as some believe, then what are we standing at the edge of? And if one day those gates don't just hang there, but really open wider, swallowing all the light around them, what do you think is on the other side? Just the cold, empty space of the atmosphere, or something people have long avoided naming? 5. A strange black circle floating in the sky. A huge black ring suddenly appeared, hanging right on the horizon. It was so sharp and clear that a lot of people just froze, feeling like they were looking at some kind of curse drawn across the sky. It wasn't a cloud, it wasn't birds, it was a perfect circle just suspended in the air, completely still, almost challenging anyone to look away. That image hit hard right away. Hundreds of eyes stayed locked on it in heavy, quiet shock. It was spotted near Disneyland and over in Williamsburg, where the late afternoon sky had been nice and clear before sunset. Folks who saw it figured the black ring was about 200 feet across. It looked clean and almost perfectly even, not spread out and messy like normal smoke. As the light got weaker, the edges thinned out, but the shape stayed the same, like it was hanging there on purpose for everyone to see. A lot of people thought it might be a smoke ring from fireworks or from an electrical transformer blowing up and forming a circle. That idea isn't crazy. Power explosions can make black smoke rings for a short while. But what got people wondering was how it showed up exactly at that bright red sunset time and stayed nearly motionless in just a light breeze. Have you ever seen a smoke ring hang still that long in a wide open sky? That black ring didn't swirl hard or disappear fast. It just floated there, like a sign against the sky, turning deep purple. When the sun touched the horizon, the outer edge got thinner, making it feel like a giant eye slowly closing. That strange, eerie feeling gave a lot of people chills, not just from the shape, but from the sense that something you can't quite name was closing in around them. Revelation 15:1 says, "I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues. For in them the wrath of God is complete." When a perfect black circle hung there like a mark in the sky, quite a few believers took it as one of those signs warning that God's wrath is getting close. Even if science can't explain it, the image still brought to mind warnings about the last days. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven, and on the earth there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places." Great signs from heaven aren't always meteors or eclipses. Sometimes it's just a clear symbol that stirs up fear in everybody. That floating black ring in the fading daylight felt like a picture of being surrounded, of darkness slowly closing in around all of humanity. No one knows for sure what really caused it. The strange sight was caught on video from different angles and spread fast. The worry wasn't just the odd shape, it was the feeling that it showed up at exactly the right moment and place, like something set up on purpose. As the ring thinned out and faded into the dark sky, a lot of people just stood there, staring up at the empty space it left behind. If that black ring was only smoke, it still leaves a question about why it appeared at that exact time and looked so perfect. But if, as some people believe, it stood for the final darkness closing in, then was that fading away just a temporary pause? Once it vanished completely, will the darkness keep spreading and swallow the whole sky? Or was that only the start of something even bigger waiting ahead? 6. Mysterious circle of light. A strange thing spread right in the middle of the dark night. Circles of light started spinning out of nowhere in the sky. No warning, no clear explanation. From far away, they looked like glowing wheels turning slowly high up in the air, real and dreamlike at the same time, making anyone who saw them wonder if they were watching a show or some ancient ritual coming back to life. It happened in Nagpur, a busy city full of LED lights, light festivals, and outdoor events. But that night, the beams didn't just shoot up and fade like usual. They spun in perfect circles, growing into huge rings of light hundreds of feet up. They moved smoothly together, overlapping, spreading out, then pulling back in, like they were drawing perfect concentric circles against the deep black sky. People gathered in the streets, looking up as the bands of light swept across, then curled into rounds. White light mixed with blue swept over thin clouds, creating a magical effect. It reminded folks of drone shows or disco lights, but on a much bigger scale, with impossibly smooth motion, as if some invisible hand was guiding it all. Every spin was steady, unhurried, never messy, so viewers felt there was some deep order behind the light. Ezekiel 1-4 says, "I looked, and there was a whirlwind coming from the north, a great cloud with flashing fire all around and brightness surrounding it. reading that again. The spinning lights in the night clouds suddenly felt very close and familiar, like those circles were an echo of an old vision. Bright light surrounding the cloud, moving with purpose, it brought to mind glory and power beyond normal understanding. Some say it was just revolving lights for a local event, but the question remains, why did similar videos show up in other places around the world at the same time? That kind of timing, even if it's a coincidence, still makes you feel the light wasn't just man-made tech. When the circles spin steady like ancient wheels, people start thinking of visions recorded thousands of years ago. Joel 2:31 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." Acts 2:20 repeats it. "The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and glorious day of the Lord comes." These Bible verses feel like a key, tying light and darkness together in the same motion, signaling a shift from the old order to something glorious arriving. As the circles kept turning, then slowed before fading into the night, a deep curiosity spread through the crowd. If it was only technology, it still showed a hidden human longing for something sacred. But if it was a sign, maybe we're quietly watching preparations for a much bigger day. Those steady circular movements felt like a ritual opening the way, a prelude before the curtain rises. Imagine one night, the spinning doesn't fade away, but stops right there in the sky, the light gathering into a clear shape. If an angel really appeared inside that circle, would we recognize it as the return we've been told about? Or would we keep looking for another explanation while the sky quietly keeps turning overhead? 7. Strange shadow moving in the storm. Right in the eye of the storm, a huge, shadowy figure holding a staff suddenly appears in a flash of lightning, pitch black and towering like a messenger from the heavens just streaking through the sky. It leaves you with a real chill running down your spine. This wasn't some regular cloud, not a tree shadow or a power pole. It was a clear human shape standing tall against the swirling sky. In that moment, as the lightning ripped through the dark, you could almost feel heavy footsteps strolling across the clouds above. This was caught on camera in the Philippines and in Minnesota, places that know all about fierce storms and constant thunder and lightning. In just a few seconds of bright flash, the dark figure stood out plainly, probably hundreds of feet tall, one hand seeming to grip a long staff pointed toward the ground. When the lightning faded, the shadow vanished fast, but it lasted long enough for several cameras to capture its almost perfect outline. People who saw it say they didn't just see it, they felt its presence, like the figure wasn't standing still but gently shifting with each rolling cloud. Its shape wasn't some random distortion, it looked strangely balanced, from the head and shoulders right down to what looked like that staff in its hand. We can tell ourselves it's just light playing tricks and our imagination running wild, but that feeling of being watched from way up high sticks with you long after the storm passes. Weather experts say this is probably pareidolia, when our brains see human faces or figures in random patterns, like clouds and lightning flashes. They explain that a bolt can light up layers of clouds from just the right angle, creating a quick illusion. That makes sense. Storm skies are always changing and chaotic. Still, why does the illusion come out so clearly as a person holding a staff, clear enough that several people spot the same kind of figure at once? Matthew 24-27 says, "For as the lightning comes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man." When that lightning cuts across the sky and reveals this giant shadow, that Bible verse rings out more like a hint than a coincidence. It appears with the flash, quick but unmistakable, and many believers feel it's a reminder that something powerful is drawing near. Revelation 6:13 says, "The stars fell to the earth as the fig tree drops its late figs when shaken by a strong wind." In the middle of the storm, with thunder, lightning, and wild gusts shaking the sky, that staff-holding shadow feels like part of a bigger picture, where heaven and earth are both trembling. Not to scare us into panic, but like a warning bulletin that dark moments can cover everything before something tremendous arrives. If it's only an illusion, it still touches our deepest fear. Something huge and out of our control watching us. But if it's a real messenger sent to warn us, then every lightning flash from now on might not be just nature anymore. And if on another stormy night, that shadow doesn't just stroll across the clouds, but comes closer, clearer in the blinding light, will we call it another trick of the eye? Or will that be the moment the sky doesn't just light up, but actually opens so the sacred can step down to earth? 8. A trumpet sound echoed across the Paris sky. Suddenly, in the middle of the afternoon, a sharp, piercing noise came from above, stopping the whole neighborhood in its tracks, like someone blew a giant horn right through the gray clouds. No car horns, no church bells, just a long, booming trumpet note that vibrated deep in your chest, making you look up without thinking, trying to find where it came from. In just a few minutes, the usual calm turned into confused chaos. It happened in Paris, the city once called the City of Light, but that day it was filled with this strange sound no one could pin down. The trumpet echoed, low then high, long blasts like metal wind slicing through the air, bouncing off the old stone walls and coming right back. People in the square jumped. Some ran in different directions. Others froze, holding phones up to the sky in a shared shiver. The sound wasn't like an airplane or an alarm siren. It felt like an ancient instrument amplified 100 times. It cut through the air, held long, then stopped short, only to start again, as if someone was testing long notes up among the clouds. Those who heard it said the ground seemed to tremble a little, hearts beat faster, and the sky felt heavy pressing down whenever the sound hit its peak. Many scientists and sound engineers think it could be sky trumpets, atmospheric noises from shifting tectonic plates, metal sounds from construction, or echoes in subway tunnels. They point out that Earth often makes strange sounds when pressure and geology change. That explanation makes some sense, but why did it sound exactly like a classic trumpet, with clear rhythm and pitch? 1 Thessalonians 4:16 says, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God." When that Bible verse came up amid the chaos, many believers didn't see it as just coincidence. A trumpet from the sky isn't only a sound, it's a signal, a wake-up call in a serious time that no one can ignore. Revelation 8:2 says, "And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them." The picture of trumpets handed to angels feels like a strong warning of events that follow the first sound. If each blast marks a step, then the noise in the sky that day might just be the beginning of something much bigger being prepared. The sound finally faded, leaving a heavy silence on the streets. But that quiet didn't bring peace. It felt more like the pause between 2 trumpet blasts, everyone waiting for what comes next. Even as science keeps searching for the cause, the echo of that trumpet still haunts those who heard it. If it was only a natural event, it was strong enough to shake an entire city. But if it was God's trumpet calling people to wake up, then each next blast might not just be noise. It could be the sign of a new chapter in history opening. And when that trumpet sounds again, will we realize what we're facing? 9. Mysterious glowing orb above the mosque tower in Medina. In the quiet, peaceful air of the holy site, a soft, round light suddenly appeared above the mosque tower. It wasn't loud or flashy, but it was enough to make everyone stop and look up in silent awe. The orb wasn't blinding like fireworks, and it didn't streak across the sky like a shooting star. It just floated there, calmly, like a gentle point of light against the night sky. In that moment, you could almost feel your own heartbeat slow down, as if you were seeing something beyond everyday life. The sighting happened in Medina, right above the area near Al-Masjid an-Nabawi, one of the most important holy places in Islam. Witnesses describe the orb as glowing, with a white light tinged with gold. It looked about a few feet across when compared to the size of the tower. It hung steady in the air, with no engine noise or any sign of control. It didn't move like a drone, didn't shake in the wind, just quietly stayed there, then slowly faded away like a soft breath. Some people thought of those metallic orbs that have been filmed in the Middle East, bright, round objects reflecting moonlight and city lights. But what made this event stand out was the location and the sacred feeling all around it. The orb didn't shoot away or explode. It just gradually disappeared, layer by layer of light, as if it had delivered some silent message before leaving. A few folks said it might have been nothing more than a balloon catching the glow from lights below, or maybe a small piece of meteor burning up and going out. Those explanations could easily be true in our physical world. But why would something so ordinary show up exactly over a holy place where millions come looking for peace and prayer? That coincidence alone makes many people think deeper instead of settling for a simple, mechanical answer. Matthew 24:3 says, "As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. 'Tell us,' they said, 'when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?'" People have been asking about signs for thousands of years. And every time something strange shows up in the sky, it reminds us of that longing to understand our place in the bigger flow of time. That glowing orb, in the stillness of Medina, felt like a gentle nudge that the question still matters. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars." That floating light might just be a natural thing, or it might be one of those signs the Bible mentions. Not to scare us, but to strengthen faith. When a sign appears right in a sacred place, it links heaven and earth in a single moment, making faith feel more alive than ever. If it was a quiet reminder to hold on to steady faith in a changing world, then that light did its job. But if it comes back another night, not just floating, but shining brighter and carrying a clearer message, will we be ready to really hear what that holy light is trying to say? 10. Mysterious glowing orb above the mosque tower in Medina. In the calm, peaceful air around the holy site, a soft, round light just appeared above the mosque tower. It wasn't loud or showy, but it made everyone stop and look up in quiet wonder. The orb wasn't bright like fireworks, and it didn't zip across the sky like a shooting star. It simply floated there, steady and gentle, like a soft light against the dark night. Right then, you could almost feel your own heart slow down, as if you were seeing something bigger than normal life. This happened in Medina, right over the area near Al-Masjid an-Nabawi, one of the holiest places in Islam. People who saw it said the orb glowed with white light that had a touch of gold. It looked maybe a few feet wide compared to the tower. It stayed perfectly still in the air, no engine sound, no sign it was being controlled. It didn't dart around like a drone or wobble in the wind. It just hung there quietly, then slowly faded away like a soft sigh. Some folks remembered those shiny metallic orbs caught on video in the Middle East, bright round things that catch moonlight and city lights. But what made this one special was the place and the peaceful, sacred feeling all around. The orb didn't zoom off or blow up. It just gently disappeared, layer by layer, as if it had quietly shared a message before going. A few people figured it was probably just a balloon picking up light from below, or maybe a small meteor fragment burning out. Those things could easily happen in the real world. But why would something so everyday appear exactly over such a holy spot where millions come for peace and prayer? That one fact alone makes a lot of us pause and think deeper instead of going with the easy answer. Matthew 24:3 says, "As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives,